Peace, love, and respect unto you. My name is Susanis Narisha Bay, and I am a yoga therapist. I have compiled this documentary series for one, to show the journey of what I've gone through in the most minute way, as far as my major influences that allowed me to be able to develop my yoga therapy practice. There's, it's not 10 years worth of data, it happened over about a 10-year time span. However, the main thing that I really focused on are the most gut-wrenching, really deep aspects that really allowed me to be able to transcend my way of thinking about the anatomy, my own life, and the relationship in which my own family and the rest of my friends and the people that I've known who are still living now and who passed away, their relationship with health. So I compiled this system called the iOS Healing System, or the Indoctrination of Self-Healing System, to combine the aspects of body, mind, and spirit using aspects like yoga and meditation and affirmations and healthy eating and addressment of the past and emotional closure and so many different things all into one. However, the prequel, or the background story to my whole practice in general, and how I've been able to prevent 5 surgeries in the year of 2017, and rehabilitating a friend of mine's grandfather over a 3-month period, and so on. I felt that the time is now to reach out and share my practice with the rest of the world, and I hope that we can work through this together, whether it's me and you, or me, you, and a friend, or just some other person who sees this video that you referred to it and that you maybe didn't think that would fully benefit. Please share the video, and I look forward to hearing from either you soon or one of the people in your close circle of friends or family soon. I help with chronic ailments. I help with preventing surgery and understanding the body's capabilities. I am a facilitator to help you realize your full potential. Thank you. I look forward to speaking or hearing from you soon. Our compassion for one another and our ability to respond are the keys to hope. Now, in an age of self-centeredness and lack of interconnecting depths, all is at risk. It will take each and every one of us to follow our true paths before the global sigh of accomplishment and world peace can be heard. If there is no peace in the world, then the world will plummet into oblivion. We can only reach such heights by humbling ourselves to each other's causes, while allowing our deeds to provide the path to fulfillment and upliftment. I use my heart as a guide in servitude. My yoga therapy is fueled through satisfying people on their journey. Please be my guest to understanding my perspective on heart.
The leader of Tzu Chi Foundation is Master Chen Yen. This is her story and a portrait of her humanitarian relief work around the globe. She heads the Tzu Chi Foundation, the Buddhist charity group with 10 million members around the world. Her volunteers work in the areas of medicine, culture, education, and humanitarian relief in Taiwan and beyond.
下上人行会序礼。会序。
To describe Master Cheng Yen is a very, very hard job. In a lot of Catholic countries, I introduce Master Cheng Yen. Oh, she's just like Mother Teresa. But I think she's not only Mother Teresa. I don't want to say she's so great, so extraordinary, she's like God. No, she's an ordinary person. But somehow, she has a very special character.
可要知道，平平安安的日子实在是很难得，所以我们一定呢，日日要说感恩哦，天天都要戒圣虔诚祈求，天下无灾，岁岁连连。这都是我们呢要很虔诚的祈祷啊。看到了天下这么多的四大不调，人人已经警惕到了，就是呢，因为污染，空气污染，二氧化碳呐，那大家呢也已经呢觉悟到了这个地球的资源呐，所以呢是全球的国际间人人呢都警惕到了。所以都在宣导环保。看看马来西亚吉隆坡，那么在吉隆坡啊，这政府呢也已经看到了粪扫的问题，资源需要回收，所以呢，他要提供很多的这个空间呐，然后让来做环保。那这租金呢都很低哦。只要你想要做环保，可是呢，因遐的人吼讲主动把这个物件提到迄个回收站吼，很少啦，很少吼。那唯有慈济人看到了台湾的环保这样做，所以他们也发心立愿吼，要把环保做好，所以。雪融哦，那慈济人呢就会运用智慧，开始呢要人间菩萨招生，这都是呢要清净哈，我们自己要走出去呀，真正的呢要打开心门呐，先把自我的这太自大的心把它放下了，打开了心门呢，却招呼人人呐。马来西亚玻璃市啊，半年前才发生过了空前的大水灾，但是今年的在3月28号那一天呐，又是下了好大雨，成灾了。玻璃市的慈济人马上动员，就即刻的呢，赶紧去送水啊，送米包啊，吼，到第4、5天啦，开始呢水慢慢的退啦，慈济人呐就开始看灾了吼。其实在这个玻璃市发生灾情之前，因为日本的3月11号的强震啊，马来西亚也是很快启动啊，大家都是在为日本歉幕。在这当中呢，28号开始下大雨，他们呢马上转过来为自己的国家、自己的同胞开始呢发放。所以啊，菩萨不分他方国度，也是呢不分自己的侨基地，哪里有灾难，及时呢就可以动员起来哈。那么印尼也一样，在西爪哇的山区里啊， 已经啊久来呢，这个山土都是松动了啦，一有了水灾呢，就土石流，好严重啊！路断呐、桥断呐、要看灾呢不简单呐、好在呢，当地呀、军区的司令部陪伴了去看灾呀、所以能顺利啦完成看灾，去帮助到了500多户哈。那同样，他们在这之前呢，他们也是在为日本劝募，所以啊，有一边在劝募的时候，他们啊也在宣导、忏悔、斋戒。有一集。
Medical expertise lies at the heart of Tutsi humanitarian relief efforts, both in Taiwan and abroad. Master Tsingen built the first of the Tutsi hospitals in Hualien, then a remote region of Taiwan vulnerable to natural disasters. It is Buddhist compassion in action, a means of alleviating human suffering with the help of Western medicine. Master Tsingen started Tutsi in 1966, a humble cooperative consisting mainly of housewives. Her mission was to help the poor, but she soon discovered the cause of poverty was illness.
他看到了这一些现象，就是因病而贫的现象，看到了花莲地区民众求医求不得的苦，所以他觉得他要在花莲为东部地区的民众来新建一所慈济医院。所以当他讲这一句话的时候呢，全场应该虽然是只有10几个人，可是也算是所有来的都是核心人物嘛。大家都空气都凝固了，大家觉得说这个应该不可能嘛，所以没有几乎大家脸色沉重，空气凝固。所以我就在那个时候我就说，我赞成，我赞成。师父，我赞成。事实上，那个时候真的非常的困难，因为找土地没有人相信嘛，所以都到处求啊，到处拜托啊。所以后来又要说8亿要盖医院呐、我走到哪里，人家就跟我讲说：“哎，那个来了，那个来了。”好，就说我有精神病啊。好，因为那个时候花莲县政府啊，1年的预算大概1亿左右。那你一个出家人，一介妮妮啊，一个瘦弱的妮妮，你去做这件事情，你根本一文不名，怎么有可能呢？要花那么大的愿呢？
To persuade the naysayers, Master Tsingen held one fundraising event after another. When then Taiwan President Jiang Qingguo heard the news, he made a visit to Master Tsingen and instructed government ministries to give her full support. Against all odds, after 7 years of hard work, the Tutsi Hualien Hospital finally opened in 1986. The hospital now serves 350,000 residents. She listens to the needs of both doctors and patients and looks for ways of making things work better. Her approach to Buddhism is infused with pragmatism and common sense.
You have to practice Buddhism, not only talk about it. The practice is more important.
Today, doctors give up higher-paying jobs elsewhere to work at the Hualien Hospital. Master Tsingen has built apartments for the doctors and even schools for their children. It was her way of overcoming objections by doctors who did not want to work in the backwaters of Hualien. In so doing, she turned a hardship posting into a dream job. But she went even further. She developed the Hualien Hospital into a full-fledged medical center with its own nursing college and medical school.
It's spent almost 10 years, 15 years to reach the level of the medical center. So it's a long way.
Always dressed in their signature blue uniform, the 1 million Tutsi volunteers around the globe can mobilize at a moment's notice for their latest mission. Like the Bodhisattva with 1,000 hands in the Buddhist legend, these volunteers reach out and alleviate suffering in various parts of the world. In the name of Buddhist compassion, Tzu Chi is known for tackling problems that many would have shunned. For decades, the poorest of the poor in Jakarta, Indonesia, lived on the banks of the Angke River. The residents draw their drinking water from this heavily polluted source. To clean up the river would require the relocation of more than 10,000 residents. It was a massive undertaking. The construction of 1,100 apartments was completed within 2 years. In 2003, the Angke River residents moved out of the squatters into their new homes. To help them break the vicious cycle of poverty, Tzu Chi also built a school, a hospital, and a vocational training institute.
Saya mau mengucapkan terima kasih banyak sama Master Cheng Yen, walaupun dia jauh di sana, tapi di hati saya ada terukir nama Master.
The vast majority of the Angke River residents are Muslims, so the Buddhist Tzu Chi volunteers also built them a place of worship.
The idea is to help the poor, but not just helping the poor, but also to teach the rich to care the poor. So, and I feel that also during this process, that this is really what Master Cheng Yen say: if you don't do it, you don't feel it.
Many religious leaders, be they Christian, Muslim, or Buddhist, have affirmed Master Cheng Yen's work.
Do you know Tzu Chi means in English? Compassion, relief. Yes, you have compassion, but you must put into action. Relief. Relief what? Relief pain, relief troublesome, relief hunger, relief disaster. Compassion, relief. I think these two words describe Master Cheng Yen.
Master Cheng Yen believes good deeds are means of calling forth the seed of compassion in every human heart. It is a journey that every person has to undertake for themselves, just as she had done decades ago.
而且今天能够做到这样，其实是。
Tomorrow is not promised, or is it? Every cell in the body replaces itself naturally every 7 years. From our bones to our skin, our lifestyle choices promote or stagnate the process. We have the ability to heal ourselves and even regain vitality that seeing years prior have not been able to measure up to. If we stay consistent, focused on growth, and patient, so much is possible. In my yoga therapy practice, I consider all the limitations and then always remind that the mind is the biggest challenge to overcome. Please be my guest to understanding my perspective on the body's capability. The body and its potential. I was able to overcome arthritis and 2 knee injuries and a palm injury. Aside from just getting better flexibility and everything else, and then realizing about everything that I was, all my limiting beliefs in terms of what the body is capable of doing by itself if you really decide to take your whole journey of healing serious. My three main influences, one would be the instructor from the training, from my second yoga instructor training, John Tamayo. And then the next would be the book that I studied under John Tamayo's training, which was the Yoga Anatomy. And then Baba Ramdev. So, if you look deeper at what they really offer, you can definitely expand and see. So, hopefully, you start to see a little bit of that through the excerpts that I provided.
The word Atma means self, and the word Ananda means bliss, self-bliss. My initial practice were in Hatha Yoga. I was initiated in Hatha Yoga, and then I went into Ashtanga Yoga for many years, almost 6 years. At the same time, I was also studying Iyengar because I was very interested in alignment. The observation between Ashtanga and Iyengar and taking into account the basics, which is Hatha Yoga, led me to create a vinyasa flow that we call Atmananda Yoga sequence, a blend between Iyengar, Ashtanga, and Hatha Yoga in harmony with breath to create a vinyasa flow. Separate your feet 3-4 inches apart. Hold the right toe into a yogi toe lock. As you inhale, bring the right foot forward and up into one leg standing, balancing pose. Utthita Hasta Parangustasana. Right leg straight to the front, right hand to the hip. Keeping both hands to the hips. 1. Flex the right foot. 2. Right leg straight. 3. Bend the right knee, reach inside the right ankle behind. Bring the left hand up to the heavens. Kicking the right toes up. Move the left hand forward. Look at the floor or look at the front. Lift the right toes. 1. Bring the right toes higher. 2. Press the left foot flat. 3. Breathe into the nose. Inhale, gentle back, right foot to the left, inner tight. Namaste and prayer pose. Bring the hands up to the heavens. Open the arms along with the shoulders. The arms are straight. The spinal cord is straight. The left foot is flat with the left leg straight. You're paying attention. You have a strong intention. You have a strong, powerful determination, and you develop in concentration. Attention, intention, determination, and concentration will lead you into what is called meditation. And it's through meditation that you will find the perfect pose. You find your place of stillness. Inhale, hands up. Namaste. Ground right foot, shaking the left leg. The important things of understanding the movement comes from the understanding of the breath. And the understanding of the breath comes from understanding of the mind itself. When you synchronize thinking, breathing, and moving at the same time, you can experience absolute freedom because the mind is directly connected with the time and the body is directly connected with the space. When you understand the mind and the body, you are connecting directly with time and space. And as you learn to understand the mind and the body, you learn to transcend time and space. So most of us do not understand that our breath maybe can be too short. Sometimes we're only breathing from one nostril. Sometimes we're not breathing fully into the lower abdomen, the lower dantian, and that can create a lot of problems, not only physical problems like constipation and anxiety, but also psychological problems and emotional problems because of the lack of prana or life force or oxygen inside your body. So if you're not properly breathing from the center of your body, you become off-center. So the attention to the breath is extremely important in your practice of yoga because every pose has to be in direct harmony with the way you breathe and the way you think. Once you synchronize the three of them, you'll be able to develop a fantastic practice that can keep your body healthy and have a wonderful time and live longer in a very healthy way. Everything in this universe has a center. The center of her body, between the shoulders, is the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the center of her shoulders, and her nipples means the wings of her emotional body. And the center of her cheeks is called the nasal bone. The nasal bone is the center of her intelligence. And the pelvis and the hips are the wings of her sexual energy. So the hip bones are the wings of the sexual energy. Once we understand alignment, we always guiding ourselves on this center on the front of the body. Now, if we turn around the spinal cord, can you turn around, Lina? Thank you. Now, the shoulders are directly connected with the cervical 7, and the hips are directly connected with the lumbar area, and the heart chakra is directly connected with the solar plex or the thoracic area. Can you turn around again? Thank you so much. Now here, when we talk about the center of the body, we are talking about a physical object called the human body, but we can do exactly the same thing with the physical mat. The center of the mat between the right and the left is called the middle line. This middle line is directly connected with the spinal cord or the center of the body. This is going to be our guideline to learn how to really use the mat when we are practicing yoga. Maintaining this center line is essential to understand how to maintain proper balance in your yoga practice. In the mat, we have what is called the first line. You can say here, it says first line. And then next to the first line, next to the middle line, we have what is called the two parallel lines in the front for the standing poses. And then right here on the center, we have what is called the middle line. Then from the first line, we have something called the second line. We use the second line to do arm balancing poses like Bakasana, Majurasana, and things that have to do with the hands, sustaining the body, the universe with your own hands. Then if we move to the back of the mat, we have here what is called the 45 degree to the right and the 45 degree to the left. We continue with what is called the third line, and here we have what is called the fourth line. Then next to the middle line, between the third and the fourth line, we have the two parallel lines, which is a 8 inches differences between each other or separation between each other. And then we have what is called the X backs. You can see the X right here, or the red backs. Then in front of it, we have what is called the purple circles and the orange triangles. Everything in the mat is symmetrically done to maintain proper alignment. So when you go into the poses, you have achievement of the perfect pose, or it can help you to really achieve the perfect pose in a very short amount of time, protecting your ligaments and your joints.
When we start to destabilize the joints that should be stable and overstabilize on the joints that should be mobile, we develop, and we do that consistently over a long period of time, the body runs out of its ability to adapt to that. And it tells you that it's losing that ability to adapt by sending you messages of discomfort. Now, you know, it's really important to say that not all discomfort we experience in yoga practice is telling us to stop doing what we're doing. In fact, we have to learn to discriminate between the messages that say, oh, I can't take this for another second, and you actually can, and you can safely, because that's that barrier, that holding, that resistance that the practice is showing you about yourself. So there's a difference between those kinds of signals of discomfort and the ones that we really should pay attention to. So I think the real question is, how can we learn to discriminate more between the messages that are saying stop and you should stop, and the ones that say stop and you go no, right? You know, I can keep going. And that's what this great definition of asana that we get from Patanjali is telling us. It's Chira Sukhasasanam, you know, that there can be strength without rigidity, and there can be flexibility without instability. There can be, as Jessica Char likes to say, alertness without tension and relaxation without dullness. There can be all of these things, but it requires attention, it requires discrimination, and it also requires us to never put ourselves on automatic pilot and think that we know, because our bodies, like everything else in the universe, are constantly changing. So what may have been safe yesterday to do, for whatever reason today may not be safe, especially as you get older. And you know what? We are all getting older.
Everyone, welcome to the Savannah Podcast. I'm your host, Ashton Sebo. Today's show is all about yoga and the breath, and I'm really excited about our guest, Leslie Kaminoff. He's the go-to guy in the yoga world for anatomy. He has over 36 years of experience in this field. He's the author of Yoga Anatomy, which is by far the most popular yoga book out there, having printed over 500,000 copies. He's the founder of the Breathing Project, which is a nonprofit educational corporation dedicated to the teaching of individualized, breath-centered yoga practice and education. And he teaches at yoga schools and on trainings all over the world. We're really lucky to have him on the show today. Leslie, welcome. And one element that I notice a lot that is missing is the breath, other than perhaps like the token, like everyone take a nice deep breath sort of cues. Why do you feel breath is so important, not only in an asana practice, but to yoga as a whole?
Well, to quote my teacher, TKV Desikachar, if what you're doing in your practice doesn't include the breath, then that practice really isn't yoga. Because yoga, asana practice bears a certain similarity to certain other things we do with our body, whether it's stretching or calisthenics or even some forms of dance or Pilates. A lot of different things move the body in different positions and in different ways. And yoga certainly does that as well. But what makes it yoga, at least from my standpoint and the standpoint of the teaching tradition I'm connected with, is that the mind and the body are being joined in this activity through the vehicle of the breath. And that's a really critical element. Now, needless to say, whether the teacher in a class or the students in the class are explicitly focusing on the breath, they're still breathing, right? Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I imagine so.
That's a great thing about our breathing mechanism. Yes, we can voluntarily take control over it and focus it in a certain way and make it a certain length and make it travel a certain way in our body and coordinate it with movements that we're doing. We can do all of these things intentionally, voluntarily with our breath. But there's also this other component of breathing, at least our human breathing, and that it's involuntary, that it does take care of itself. It knows what it needs. The body knows what it needs metabolically in terms of oxygen, and it knows how to get your diaphragm and your other breathing muscles to move to deliver that oxygen. And so what I find interesting, and this is almost more of a philosophical reason to have breathing at the core of what you're doing, is that because we have this dual nature of our breath, that it's both voluntary and involuntary, by putting the breathing at the center of our attention, it has the ability to teach us about the difference between that which we can control and that which we cannot control, to which we must surrender. That's a philosophical distinction that the breath brings to the table when you start focusing on it, because it shows you the limits of your control on the one hand, but it also shows you how much that you previously thought was out of your control is something that you can modulate or regulate. So it puts you in an interesting conversation, which to me is far richer than, can I get my leg behind my head, or can I get my knee straight here, or can I get my heels down here? I often remind people that yoga really isn't about doing the postures. It's about undoing what's in the way of the postures. And frequently what's in the way is a habit that we're holding in our system, a habit of breathing, a habit of holding, a habit of even feeling or thinking that gets frozen in our body and gets uncovered in the attempt to do all these different things on the mat.
Now, A lot of habits, kind of as you say, are as well as things like flexibility in our range of motion, are in many senses governed by the nervous system. It's something that we're kind of is coming into the field of yoga even more as Western science continues to blend in, where it's not just this mechanical yank on either end of a tissue and it's going to get more flexible, but it's a more integrated system with the nervous system. How does the breath influence the nervous system?
In a variety of ways. And you alluded to Jules Mitchell's work there, which I assume you had in the back of your mind when you were talking about yanking on either end of a muscle. So even stretching isn't what we thought it was. I mean, we've been telling people this for years. I certainly have this experience in my own life, having been invited into the operating room to see a client of mine getting a hip.
How can yoga help you to get a fit body? How can it help you to get rid of ailments so that you remain healthy till you turn 100? Yoga helps you to maintain good health. It is a complete science. It allows you to lead a full and rich life, and it takes you to a high level of spirituality. Now come, join us today to practice yoga for an hour, which will reduce your health-related problems, help you to reduce your ailments, and you will experience tranquility. Just take a few precautions. If you are suffering from heart problems or you have high BP, always practice pranayam without exerting. Also, if you have pain in the lower back, or if you have ulcerative colitis, or if you are suffering from acute asthma, remember never to practice pranayam with strain. If you are suffering from epilepsy or suffering from cancer, pranayam has to be practiced very slowly for major relief. Expecting mothers must never practice Kapalbhati and Bahya pranayam. During menstrual cycle, ladies must avoid practicing Bahya pranayam, this one pranayam. Remember, this has to be avoided. Keep this in mind while you are practicing pranayam. And most importantly, pranayam has to be done on an empty stomach. Practice yoga on an empty stomach. If you want to do pranayam in the evening, give a gap of 5 hours after the meals. While practicing asanas, take 2 important precautions. If you have backache, never bend forward. If you are suffering from heart problem or hernia, do not bend backward. Remember 2 rules about breathing while practicing asanas. Whenever you bend forward, you have to breathe out. Whenever you bend backward, you have to breathe in. When you are in a normal position, breathing should also be normal. Always remember, when you bend forward, breathe out, but when you bend backward or sideways, you have to breathe in. That is all. Pranayam is practiced while sitting in Siddhasan, Sukhasan and Padmasan positions. For Siddhasan, place your right foot on the left, heel on heel, ankle on ankle, toes on toes. Toes should be between the calf and thigh. Both hands in Dhyan Mudra or in some specific mudra. This is Dhyana Mudra. This is Vayu Mudra. This is Shunya Mudra. This is Prithvi Mudra. This is Varun Mudra. This is Shakti Mudra. And this is Apan Mudra. You can choose any of these mudras back upright and take a deep breath and exhale it. Now let's practice. Do not strain yourself in the least. In Kapalbhati Pranayam, you have to breathe out. There are 7 pranayams, 7 exercises and 7 asanas. We have discovered that if you practice these properly, the problems related to heart, hepatitis A, B, C, thyroid problem, problems of diabetes, obesity and acute arthritis, bronchitis, all these ailments will subside just by practicing these 7 pranayams. That's why you must practice these 7 pranayams every day without fail. Till now, an estimated 7 million people might have benefited from pranayam in our camps. And if you include those who visited our ashrams, then this figure may even touch 10 million.
प्रज्ञा प्रसादम आरोग्य असोच्य सोचतो जनान भूमिष्ठान एव शैलस्थौ सर्वान प्राज्योनुपश्य.
This is the way you must practice Kapalabhati for about 15 minutes. After this we will practice Bahya Pranayam. Increase it slowly, do it for 15 minutes. Take a deep breath in. Then breathe out, then hold it out. Those with heart ailment BP must not do this. Those with cervical spondylitis must not practice Anubandh. Chin on your chest. Contract your stomach so that it touches your back. This is Udyan Bandh. Area below the navel must also be contracted inwards. This is Mool Bandh. With 3 bandh, we do Bahya Pranayam. This is what you do in Bahya Pranayam.
Man has gone far astray from nature in our journey. Our natural demands and our emotional demands have become flipped. Even our ability to create has been used against us for unproductive means. As we perpetuate and do not model nature's processes and ecosystem, we have imagination leading us instead. As I journeyed along my own personal path of wellness, I realized there is no middle ground to food and health. Either food promotes health or it doesn't. My yoga therapy practice and even the vitality I have now in my life would have not been made to these depths without true observation and internal conversation on food. Please be my guest to understanding my perspective on diet and consumption.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira. Now I'd like to read you a biographical sketch of Professor Arnold Ehret. Professor Arnold Ehret was a German healer, dietitian, philosopher, teacher, visionary, and one of the first people to advocate fasting and a plant-based, vegan, and mucus-free lifestyle as a therapy for healing. For over 100 years, his written works and teachings have touched the lives of thousands of health seekers pursuing higher levels of vitality. Ehret's most famous books, Mucusless Diet Healing System and Rational Fasting, continue to increase in popularity as plant-based, vegan, and raw food diets become more prevalent. Ehret believed that pus and mucus-forming foods were unnatural for humans to eat and suggested that a diet of fruits and green leafy vegetables, that is, mucus-free foods, are the most healing and powerful foods for humans. Ehret offers a sophisticated, yet simple and safe, transitional system for those who endeavor to stop eating pus and mucus-forming foods. Early life. Arnold Ehret was born July 25, 1866, near Freiburg in Baden, Germany. His father was a gifted farmer who was so technologically advanced that he crafted all of his own farming equipment. Like his father, Ehret would be endowed with a passion for studying the cause and effect of phenomena. His courses of interest were physics, chemistry, drawing, and painting. He also had an affinity for linguistics and could speak German, French, Italian, and English. At the age of 21, he graduated as a professor of drawing and was drafted into the military only to be discharged because of heart trouble. At the age of 31, he was diagnosed with Bright's disease, which is inflammation of the kidneys, and pronounced incurable by 24 of Europe's most respected doctors. He then explored natural healing and visited sanitariums to learn holistic methods and philosophies. In a desperate attempt to quench his misery, Ehret decided to stop eating. To his amazement, he did not die, but gained in strength and vitality. In 1899, he traveled to Berlin to study vegetarianism, followed by a trip to Algiers in northern Africa, where he experimented with fasting and fruit dieting. Due to his new lifestyle, Ehret completely cured himself of all of his diseases and could now perform great feats of physiological strength, including an 800-mile bicycle trip from Algiers to Tunis. His discovery caused him to posit that pus and mucus-forming foods are the fundamental cause for all human illness, and that fasting, simply eating less, is nature's primary method of cleansing the body from the effects of unnatural eating. Successful healer. In the early 1900s, Ehret opened a hugely popular sanitarium in Ascona, Switzerland, where he treated and cured thousands of patients considered incurable by the so-called medical authorities. During the latter part of the decade, Ehret engaged in a series of fasts monitored by German and Swiss officials. Within a period of 12 months, Ehret completed a fast of 21 days, one of 24 days, one of 32 days, and one of 49 days, which stood as a world record for many years. Ultimately, Ehret became one of the most in-demand health lecturers, journalists, and educators in Europe, saving the lives of thousands of people. Through the 20th century, the teachings of Ehret have thrived and developed through the sincere efforts of a small group of dedicated Ehretists. Today, Ehret's teachings are gaining wider acceptance throughout the world as more people seek to investigate plant-based vegan healing and detoxification. Peace, love, and breath.
Global human populations have become a problem only because of our collective consumption at the expense of environmental sustainability, and the illusion of instant economic reward feeds this self-destruction. We are refusing to live in harmony with nature, and our bodies are the alarm clock. In the late 1940s, the incidence of cancer was 1 in 16. Today, it is 1 in 2 in industrialized nations. Cancer. Cancer cells are essentially parasitic and immortal. They do not develop special functions, merely developing their own blood vessel network to siphon nourishment away from the normal cells, and then grow to such an abnormal state that they will kill their own host. In addition to this ugly killer, a plethora of other chronic diseases is dramatically rising. Shockingly, now the chance of each of us getting cancer or some other chronic disease at some point in our lives is almost assured, because of 2 key factors that are the underlying cause: deficiency and toxicity. This discovery was at the core of a young MD's research. His name was Dr. Max Gerson. As a boy, prior to receiving his doctorate as a medical student, Max Gerson suffered from severe and repeated migraine headaches, leaving him essentially unable to function for days. After 2 years of experimenting, Dr. Gerson was able to eliminate his migraines completely by eating only certain raw fruits and vegetables. Apples were a staple. Cooked vegetables were also included, minus the fat, salt, and spices and alcohol present in the standard heavy German diet. By 1918, word was spreading about the Gerson migraine diet. But on one occasion, a patient returned with an observation. Not only had the migraine been relieved, but his skin tuberculosis also disappeared. The astounding news spread like wildfire. In April 1924, famous lung specialist Dr. Ferdinand Sauerbruch offered to do a clinical trial with 450 incurable skin tuberculosis patients. At the commencement of the study, Sauerbruch said to Gerson privately that if even one patient showed improvement, he would believe every word of Gerson's treatment. 446 out of 450 patients recovered, over 99%. Dr. Gerson and his wife Gretchen had 3 daughters, Joanna, Gertrude, and the youngest, Charlotte. Of all the children, Charlotte took a special interest in her father's work, even as a youngster, much to the delight of everyone, especially her father. By the late 1920s, Dr. Gerson's fame had spread throughout Europe, especially after he cured Dr. Albert Schweitzer's wife, Helena, of pulmonary tuberculosis and Schweitzer's daughter's skin disease. When Dr. Schweitzer was 75 years old, he came to Dr. Gerson with diabetes and was also cured. Between 1933 and World War II, Gerson and his family fled Nazi persecution, eventually settling in New York. Dr. Gerson's 7 siblings died in the Holocaust. Throughout the 40s, Dr. Gerson's success in his New York clinic stunned the medical community, but also evoked the dark forces within it. Dr. Gerson was curing patients with cancer, and as a consequence, he testified before the United States Senate on July the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in 1946, along with 5 of his recovered cancer patients and the medical records of 5 more. So stunning was this testimony that on the evening of July the 3rd, 1946, renowned ABC News correspondent Raymond Graham Swing declared on his radio broadcast to the entire United States that for the first time in history, there had been discovered a cure for cancer. The public response was overwhelming, staggering, lighting up the switchboards at ABC non-stop, out of control, unbelievable. But what happened next was even more so. 2 weeks later, Raymond Graham Swing was fired from his position at ABC that he had held for over 30 years, and the Pepper-Neely Anti-Cancer Bill of 1946, document number 8947, now gathers dust in the archives of the United States Printing Office. All during these years, Dr. Gerson's daughter Charlotte worked intensively with her father. Now married, she had a son, Howard, and a daughter, Peggy. Charlotte encouraged and aided her father to publish his first book in 1958, A Cancer Therapy, The Results of 50 Cases. Published in numerous foreign languages and selling in the hundreds of thousands, this book demonstrated to the world the seemingly miraculous examples of patients with every form of horrifying and advanced cancers given up to die by their medical doctors and surgeons. The patients came to Dr. Gerson with their biopsy reports, x-rays, and other medical records, and found cures under Dr. Gerson's care. Some of these patients, almost 50 years later, are still alive today. Of course, although the title is about 50 cases, these merely serve as representatives of thousands of complete recoveries, well beyond the 5-year survival mark. And the miracles of recoveries by the countless thousands across the world continue to this day. At the time of his death in 1959, Dr. Gerson was tracking over 1,500 patients. The files have been preserved by his daughter Charlotte, who's now in her 80s. Charlotte carries on the work of her father through the establishment of the Gerson Institute in California and a hospital in Tijuana, Mexico. She loves to reminisce about Dr. Gerson's legacy.
You talked about oxidative stress earlier. Is treating oxidative stress one of the best ways to deal with the African AIDS epidemic?
I think this is one way to approach, to decrease the rate of transmission, because I believe HIV, we can be exposed to HIV many times without being chronically infected. Our immune system could get rid of the virus within a few weeks if you have a good immune system. And this is a problem also of African people. Their nutrition is not very equilibrated. They are in oxidative stress, even they are not infected with HIV. So their immune system doesn't work well already. So it's prone, it can, allow HIV to get in and persist. So there are many ways which are not the vaccine, the magic name, the vaccine. Many ways to decrease the transmission just by simple measures of nutrition, giving antioxidants, proper antioxidants, hygiene measures, fighting the other infections. So they are not spectacular, but they could, decrease very well the epidemic to the level they are in Occidental countries, Western countries.
If you have a good immune system, then your body can naturally get rid of HIV.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Do you think we should have more of a push for antioxidants and things of that nature in Africa than antiretrovirals?
We should push for more, a combination of measures, antioxidant by nutrition, advice and nutrition, fighting other infections, malaria, tuberculosis, parasitosis. Most children have worms. Education, of course, genital hygiene for women and men also. Very simple measure, which not very expensive, but which could do a lot. And this is my worry about the many spectacular action. Of course, there are global funds to buy drugs and so on, Bill Gates and so on, for the vaccine. But those kind of measures are not very well funded, not funded at all, or they are, it really depends on the local government to take conscious of this, but the local government, they take advice of the scientific advisors from the international institutions, and they don't get this kind of advice very often.
There's no money in nutrition, right? There's no profit.
There's no profit, yes. The water is important. Water is key.
Now, one thing you said, you were talking about the fact that if you have a built immune system, it is possible to get rid of HIV naturally. If you take a poor African who's been infected and you build up their immune system, is it possible for them to also naturally get rid of it?
I would think so.
Okay. That's an important
It's
point.
important knowledge which is completely neglected. People always think of drugs and vaccine. So this is a message which may be different from what you heard before, no?
The closing?
No, yes, my message is different from what you heard from Fauci or...
Yes, it's a little different.
It's a little different.
Some people are very fortunate that they don't have these side effects.
Welcome to the Rock Newman Show from the campus of historic Howard University, located in the nation's capital. I'm Rock Newman, and it is my desire to inspire you with personal stories of extraordinary achievement. Herbalist Dr. Sebi has cured himself and others of addiction, obesity, and depression. But when he claimed to cure AIDS, he found himself arguing in his own defense before the New York Supreme Court, a case he won. He joins us now to talk about the case, his life, and his incredible work. Thank you. And you have a baby on the way now.
Yeah. She's pregnant.
Okay. You're 82 years old, and I'm putting some emphasis on this because it is highly unusual. Do you maintain that it shouldn't be so unusual, or that it's not something so extraordinary about you that other men ought to be able to produce?
Men could do it. Other men could do it. Any man could do it. What I did was to depart from the usual diet that most men indulges, changing the diet, because remember, I was impotent. I was impotent at 30. Mm-hmm. How was it that I could have been impotent at 30 and I'm making babies in my 80s?
A whole lot of viewers out there want to know.
Sure. But see what happened, the information that I got in 1964, many brothers and sisters may not have received that message yet.
And that message is what?
That message came from a Mexican. The message was showing gene food consistency, meaning your cellular predisposition determines what you should eat. So when I went to Mexico, I had already traveled to Russia. I was in St. Petersburg. I was in London. I've been to Spain. I've been to many places in Africa. I was asthmatic. I was impotent. I had diabetes. I was, in fact, crazy. I was placed in an insane asylum in New Jersey in 1961. Schizophrenia and paranoia. So I'm schizophrenic, paranoia, I'm impotent, I'm diabetic, I'm asthmatic from birth. So I go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And the man asks me, where are you from? I said, I am from Honduras.
Yeah.
He said, we cannot talk. I said, why? Because black folks doesn't come from Honduras.
Okay.
Maya come from Honduras. Maya and Paya and Lenca.
Yeah.
So where you from? Oh, I'm from Africa. Now we talking. Now because you are from Africa, do you believe that God was drunk when he put black people in Africa? I said, no. Well, do you believe that he put a diet there for you? I said, sure. And what's the diet? Rice and beans and potatoes and yams and cows and hogs and lamb. He said, not so. That's not the diet of an African. What is the diet of an African? He said, the same as the Toltec and the Olmec. All that which is native. But I didn't know these things because I was a Muslim.
Okay.
You know, I was in Islam. I love Islam.
Yes.
Islam gave me a whole lot of good things. I mean, I met Elijah Muhammad.
Okay.
I met the messenger, talking to him like I'm talking to you.
Okay.
But the messenger's information at the time needed a little bit more help. So he told me that I could not eat meat any longer, no lamb.
Yeah.
I could not drink any milk.
Yeah.
And
So
I abstained from all these things, and here I am now at 82. I'm happier than I've ever been in my life.
Okay.
And I left.
Okay, so let's deal with this, because there might be some folks out there that are looking in here and they're saying, well, how did you learn to do these things, one? And I would say, and I think we have something that we'll end up showing on the screen here, regarding in 1979, I think it was, you were charged in New York City with practicing medicine without a license. You were ultimately charged, indicted, and taken before the New York Supreme Court. And I would advise my viewers who might be questioning your authenticity that you won that case. Now, so the charge was practicing medicine without a license and claiming that you had a remedy to cure AIDS, cancer, and diabetes. So the question is, how did you win that case against what some people say are the toughest prosecutors in the land?
Well, it was 1987.
87, not 79, 87.
The 10th of February.
Okay.
My mother knew they were coming. When I told my mama that I had cured my 13 AIDS patient, she said, they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you.
So let me stop you there. You said I cured my 13 AIDS patients.
Yeah.
So you had 13 patients
yeah.
who had AIDS.
Yeah.
And then you say
you
cured them.
Sure. So while I was in jail, I'm saying, I wonder what defense they would have against me.
Yeah.
I would like to know. But I didn't blame the Attorney General, Mr. Robert Abrams, because why should he accept from me the statement that I cure AIDS and sickle cell and blindness when no one else has ever made those claims? The man had a right to arrest me, but he was making a mistake. So I'm sitting in jail, and I'm happy. When I got out of jail and when I went in front of the judge, I asked 3 questions.
And they were?
They were, Your Honor,
You defended yourself.
Of course I did.
Okay.
Your Honor, is it a fact that the Holy Bible teaches that the herbs are for the healing of the nations? She said, yes. Is it a fact that science shows that the human body is carbon-based, and to complement a carbon-based body, you must have a carbon-based substance to complement it, because the body only accepts the substance through the process of chemical affinity. Chemical affinity is important. It's an electrical transfer. Chemical affinity.
Okay.
The body could only accept what it is made of, not something new or alien to it. Last question. Your Honor, is it a fact that the father of medicine, Mr. Hippocrates, the man that established the principle of medical science today, cured every disease known to man? Did he use herbs or chemicals? She said, herbs. I said, thank you very much. I rest my case.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I understood that the state were unprepared to defend itself. They were unprepared because in the past there was 2,781 cases that came before the Supreme Court and lost.
Yeah.
I won.
Yeah.
Not only did I prove scientifically, but I had the diagnostic sheets, and I do have them today. And those diagnostic sheets didn't come from me. They came from their school, their American accredited, medical accredited school.
Did I read it correctly where there was some requirement for you to actually bring patients, a patient into court from each of those maladies, and that you brought multiple patients in court who, one, testified themselves, and that you had medical records, one showing that they were victims of the disease, and then showing that it had been cured by one doctor, and then a second doctor verifying what the first doctor had said?
Yes. We have to remember this, that whenever you make a statement that goes against the grain, you better be prepared. You better be prepared. The judge said that I had to bring one of every patient that I had cured, and there was one that said others. The others was a man that came from Italy. He was paralyzed. But I was supposed to take 9. I took 77.
You took 77 patients in court with you?
That's correct.
Energy is the key to our existence. From the times of the ancients to our modern day society, energy has always played a key role, whether it be that of resources to operating mechanisms throughout the ages to the amount of rest we've received. Every book has described its transitions, nuance, and depths, for energy is all. Every empire was built, sustained, and thrived on it. Yet nature is its highest reflection. Then moving to many physicists who have said for a long time that our illusion of what we refer to as time is based off trying to track it. Our very essence that gives us life is energy. And in my yoga therapy practice, that is my foundation. Please be my guest to understanding my perspective on energy.
Pranayam means, pran means the energy, ayam means control. So pranayam literally means control of your breathing. Do you know that we hardly use 10 to 15% of our lungs? We are not even using our full lung capacity. So this pranayam, which it is written in our ancient yoga text, helps us to learn more about our own breathing mechanisms. So pranayam helps us to create this awareness about our own breathing in our body. It is useful both for prevention as well as treatment of diseases. In normal people who do not have any problems or any diseases, pranayam helps to improve the oxygen capacity of the lungs. And we all know that more oxygenation, more our cells are healthy, and more we are able to prevent the deadly diseases like heart disease, cancer, and the other terminal diseases. When we talk of the treatment, especially pranayam helps the cardiac patients. We are treating cardiac patients in a non-surgical manner, where over 1500 cases we have treated just with diet, exercise, yoga and pranayams, and we have prevented bypass surgeries and angioplasties in them. Even the asthmatic patients, we have seen that who keep on taking so many pumps, inhalers and all, when they start doing pranayams, their need for the medication reduce, and many of them even do away with their pumps. Pranayam has a lot of beneficial effects on the other parts of the system also. It is not only for the heart and the lungs, but even in patients who have got orthopedic problems, kidney problems, even their other acidity, gas related problems, all these things helps with pranayam. So I strongly recommend each and everybody to start doing the pranayam practices, which is a boon for the prevention and the treatment of various diseases.
For Ayurveda, everything in and around us are one and single existence. The microcosm, the body within which we are living, or all the living being, and the macrocosm around us are part of one unit. And the role of physician is merely a role of a conveyor belt between these two, where he is actually doing, he may be processing something so that the body can easily assimilate. Other than there is nothing he is doing other than substituting things which are lacking within the system by things that are available externally. This is in nutshell the basic principle or approach of Ayurveda towards health.
I am practicing Ayurvedic ophthalmology, which is one of the 8 branches described in Ayurveda. The 8 branches, you can say, Kaya, Bala, Griha, Urdhvanga, Shalya, Damshra, Jara and Vrisha. That is general medicine, pediatrics, psychiatry, toxicology, geriatrics, etc. etc. Here the ophthalmology comes in the branch of Urdhvanga Chikitsa. Urdhvanga means the above the neck. The main difference between, just for a comparable study, we can say that within the modern ophthalmology and Ayurveda, it is entirely in different aspects. That is, one modern ophthalmology mainly works in surgical specialties, more of surgeries are there, and whereas in Ayurveda it is of medical management session.
Πώς μπορώ να σας βοηθήσω παρακαλώ?
How does it work? And why does it work? This is the question one faces when you look at all these treatments. To look at it, I think the best is to go to the principle of Ayurveda, and the basic principle is what they call Tridosam. Tridosam is described as the 3 energies that guide health and disease. These 3 dosas are called Vayu or air dosa, Pitta or fire, and Kapha or water energy. And the basic qualities they have is Chala or movement for the Vayu element. It is Ushna or heat for the Agni dosa, and it is Dravya or fluidity for the Kapha. Good, that is good, normal. If one hears these 3 words like movement, fluidity and heat, what would one think? How would one look at it? they sound like totally non-scientific words that have no connection with our modern world. If one takes the word pitta or fire, it relates with heat and it relates as well with form or rupa. If you look scientifically how form has been generated, we have to go back to the beginning of the creation of a human being in scientific terms. Semen and ovum comes together, and from these initial chemical reactions, through the formation of proteins that are structural, we start having a form. Let's go to the other dosa, what they call kapha. Kapha has a very traditional description in Sanskrit. Guru Manda, like heavy and slow, and then Slaktsna, like smooth, and Mritsna, soft. If I think of these qualities, I can see that when Charaka described Ayurveda, the first qualities he used were neurological qualities. So he went straight away to a very deep control system of the human physiology to start his medicine. Now it is interesting that it has been the last 10 years in the USA, 1990 till 2000, that has been called the 10 years of brain research. So how interesting. In medicine we needed 50 years before we decided that the main control system is the brain, and we started researching. In Ayurveda, a few thousand years ago, they started from the brain and from neurological qualities.
பொறுத்து நிலவரம் பொறுத்து வாத பித்த கபம் என்ற 3 நிலைகளை பொறுத்து ஸ்டிமுலேஷன் கொடுப்போம். அது ஸ்டிமுலேஷன்ங்கிறது ஒரு எலக்ட்ரான் ஃப்ளோ, வைட்டல் ஃப்ளோ ஆஃப் லைஃப் எக்ஸிஸ்ட் இந்த பாடி என்பாங்க. பொதுவாக 108 வர்மம் பாய்ச்சிருக்கும். தசை, தமனி, நரம்பு, எலும்பு சந்திப்புகளில் உயிர்நிலை ஓட்டம் ஒடுங்கி இருப்பதுதான் வர்மம். அதில் வாதம் பித்த கபம் இப்படி ப்ரெஸ் பண்ணி விடும்போது கண்படல் நரம்புல உள் ஆப்டிக் நர்வ்ஸ், அதில் உள் நரம்புல இருக்கிற டெபாசிட்டுகள், பிளட் சர்க்குலேஷன் தடைப்பட்டிருக்கிறது எல்லாமே நிவர்த்தி ஆகிடும். அதுக்கு நட்சத்திர காலத்தை டச் பண்ணி பார்ப்போம், திலத காலத்தில் டச் பண்ணி பார்ப்போம், நட்சத்திர காலத்தை டச் பண்ணி பார்ப்போம், காது துடி வரமும் பார்ப்போம், செவிக்குத்தி வரமும்னு ஒரு வரமும் இருக்கு, அதை டச் பண்ணி பார்ப்போம். ஆனால் அதெல்லாம் பார்த்தால் கூட இந்த சுமைதாங்கி வர்மத்தில் தான் இந்த தலையினுடைய என்டைய ப்ராப்ளமும் இருக்கும். மூளை கட்டிகள் இருந்தால் கூட இந்த சுமைதாங்கி வர்மத்தை டச் பண்ணாலே நமக்கு தெரியும். இதை ப்ரெஸ் பண்ணாலே பேஷண்ட்ஸ் ஃபீல் பண்ணதை பார்க்கலாம். இந்த நரம்பு இழுக்கும், இந்த துடி நரம்பு துடிக்க ஆரம்பிக்கும். இதுதான் இந்த கை கால் உதறலுக்கே காரணம். இந்த சுமைதாங்கி வர்மத்தை வர்மா பரிகார முறையில் குருவின் மூலமா சிஷ்யர்கள் தொட்டு காட்டுவாங்க. புக்ஸ்ல எல்லாம் இதுவரைக்கும் வந்ததில்லை.
What is pranayama? Breathing in and out is not pranayama. I see sometimes people walking in park and they are doing. I asked one, I said, what are you doing? He said, pranayama. I really laughed and laughed. Breathing in and out is not pranayama. Moving stomach in and out, it might help to reduce the weight, but it is not pranayama. Then what is pranayama? Please read. It is a combination of 2 words, prana and ayama. Prana means the vital cosmic energy, and ayama means giving a dimension to that life force. It has nothing to do with breathing. When you do say Nadi Shodhan or Kapalbhati, which many people call Kapalbharti, when people do Anulom Vilom, they don't even call it on. They say Lom Vilom. I said, my God, what is that? So they don't even understand what the difference is in between Anulom Vilom and Nadi Shodhan. They just say it, what they have heard it, and then whatever they understood. Breathing in and out is not pranayama. That is called breathing exercises. What is it? Breathing exercise is very important, but it is not pranayama. What is prana? The first energy released through which the molecules of your body or the atoms of this world begin to function, to create, is called prana. This is the vital cosmic energy. And ayama means to give dimension to it. That is pranayama. To understand pranayama, it is essential to understand the cosmic life force with which the mind and body are linked together. What is connecting your body and mind together? What is the bridge? The bridge is prana. If there is no prana, body is separated, mind is separated. This is what happens in the death time. You have a body, but it is lifeless. Right? What makes the body function? Is it oxygen? Any doctor sitting here? Is it oxygen which gives life? Well, if it is, then put an oxygen mask to a dead man. Will that person begin to breathe on its own, or will that person get enlivened? No. Actually, they will remove it. Why? They will say, no use now. Nothing there. What is that nothing? The medical students fail to answer me when I tell them, please explain what is life. And it's such a fun thing. They say when heart is beating, when brain is working, that is life. When it doesn't work, it is dead. But I said, don't we have the technology to resuscitate the person? Yes. Many times heart is stopped and then we can give the electric shock and it works again. Yes. Many times we bring out the person from their coma. Yes. So what is life? One of a yogi, Swami Rama, for good more than 20 years in America and Europe, he kept on going to hospitals and colleges, and he used to give just one demonstration. Not asana, just one demonstration. What? Panel of doctors will take his pulse, heartbeat, and then he'll say, give me 20 minutes. They are all sitting. After 20 minutes, he is lying down. Doctors check, no pulse, no heartbeat. Person is dead. They would write the certificate, this person is proclaimed dead. And after 10 to 15 minutes, pulse would be back, breathing would be back, heart is pumping back, and he would sit up and he would say, now tell me, was I dead? Am I a ghost now? He did this demonstration many, many times. And it has been recorded, analyzed by many scientists, and they couldn't understand what this Indian yogi is doing. He knew what prana is. He knew how the body is functioning, and he had the power to control his body functions. Those which seem to be involuntary, and those which seem to be voluntary, the yogi knows how to switch it back and forth. Moving on. After the pranayam comes the limb of...
Any civilizations, they always confuse what is the energy in this universe. This Qi words is not developed until almost 4,000 years ago when acupuncture became available. General definition is really the universal energy. Any type of energy is considered Qi. For example, Chinese say Tian Qi. Tian Qi, that means sky energy. It means weather. So from here you can see the general definition is pretty vague, but very simple. Just any kind of energy in the universe we call Qi. Chinese start realize 4,000 years ago, you have Qi and you have a physical body. If both doesn't get balanced, then you get sickened. and you are not strong, it cannot last long. So because of the reason, Chinese try to think about what is qi in the human body. Well, since then, the word's created. So this word just means no fire. Because at that time, Chinese doctors, they are looking for the way, for the balance. If energy is too strong, energy is too weak, it can trigger the body's too much fire. Because the reason they always want right levels is not excess, not deficient. Then the new words start appear. So this word is the one you commonly see in any literature. Divided into two parts. This word means air, and then this is rice. When you define the qi in human body, it's very scientific. This qi actually produced in the bodies come from the oxygen and the glucose. Glucose plus the 6 oxygen becomes 6 water and the 6 carbon dioxide and release 686 kilocalories of energy. The glucose is rice, oxygen is air. There's a book called The Body Electric by Dr. Baker. And inside, make more Western scientists start believe what Chinese call about qi circulating in the body. Actually, it's bioenergy or bioelectricity. I can use that to interpret a lot of phenomena, a lot of things about qigong. Universal energy, that's a general term definition. When we talk about applied to human body, it's actually, I would say, closer to bioenergy or bioelectricity.
In terms of anatomical and physiological function, human anatomy and physiology are commonly understood in contemporary science to be infused with functionality. That is the workings of the body at every level. However, in China, physical function is just one aspect of what the ancients called qi.
Of the sympathetic system's action.
The mind, it has been a puzzling and dutiful quest that I have continuously been on in search of my own beliefs and understanding myself. It is belief that shapes our existence, and it is belief that allows us to know who we are through our experiences after attaching to it. The two influences in the mental portion are Alan Watts, and an even bigger influence that has allowed me to be able to go through some limiting, transcend some limiting beliefs is J. Krishnamurti. I am in high appreciation of both of these individuals and continue to see where they can bring me on my internal journey. So enjoy.
The use of things that would lift us out of the egocentric situation could therefore be considered medical as healing for a social disorder. But again, I would say that they, used in that way, should be used as medicine in the sense that they don't become diet. Because in my experience, and of course in this matter everybody speaks for themselves, but say I consider just myself alone, I wouldn't feel very put out if, say, LSD were to vanish from the earth tomorrow. Because I have discovered that this is not the sort of thing you sort of take every so often, like you go to church, or if you do, but it's something that you can take several times in a gradually diminishing quantity, and then you've had it. Beyond that, it's up to you to integrate your vision with everyday life and with all the various kinds of knowledge. That's enough is enough. But there are other people who seem to think that the great thing to do is to start out with a little and then keep on going, making it bigger and bigger and bigger, as if they were looking for something that should lie at the end of the line. And then it becomes a diet. Now, that is indeed getting hooked on medicine. And doctors don't like to hook you on medicine, and very rightly, because the ideal of a good doctor is to get rid of you as a patient. He doesn't want chronic patients, poor people always hanging on to him, always rushing for help. He wants to set you back on your own feet. And that is an excellent principle. This is where the doctor really has something to say to the priest, because priests tend, by and large, to want to hook you. In other words, to keep you coming to church, so that you will pay your dues and the church will prosper. So the more people they can get hooked on religion, the merrier. Now, priests in this way ought to learn from the doctors and try and get rid of people by telling them their gospel or whatever it is they have to say and say, now you've had it, go away. Because you see, if you do that, you will create a vacuum and it will always be filled. Just as when the faster a doctor can get people out of his office, they go around and tell everybody, this man cured me, I didn't have to go back to him. So more people will be coming in. There are always plenty and plenty of people, never come to an end. So in a way, the religious man ought to handle a huge turnover of people, coming through and going away, coming through and going away, then he's really working. But he should not get them hooked on the medicine. Indeed, there is a famous Latin phrase, crux medicina mundi, the cross, the medicine of the world. But people get hung up, you see, on the cross. And Jesus didn't, you'll remember. According to the Christian mythology, Jesus came alive again afterwards. He didn't get hung up, only for a while. And so in the same way, if Christians really believed in the inner meaning of their doctrine, they wouldn't get hung up on the cross either, except temporarily. I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. So also, when it comes to the use of any technique whatsoever, whether it's yoga or LSD or what have you, for spiritual awakening, there applies to it the Buddha's symbol of the raft. The Buddha likened his method, his dharma, or doctrine or method, to a raft. It's also called a yana, or vehicle, hence the Mahayana, the big vehicle, the Hinayana, the little vehicle. And it takes you across the river, of which this shore is birth and death, and the other shore, liberation, nirvana. Now you get on that raft and you go over, and when you get to the other shore, you leave the raft behind. Same way they say in Zen Buddhism. Their technique, the use of the koan or meditation problem, is like knocking at a door with a brick. When the door is opened, you don't carry the brick inside.
Krishnamurti, in dialogue with Dr. Alan W. Anderson. J. Krishnamurti was born in South India and educated in England. For the past 40 years, he has been speaking in the United States, Europe, India, Australia, and other parts of the world. From the outset of his life's work, he repudiated all connections with organized religions and ideologies and said that his only concern was to set men absolutely, unconditionally free. He is the author of many books, among them The Awakening of Intelligence, The Urgency of Change, Freedom from the Known, and The Flight of the Eagle. This is one of a series of dialogues between Krishnamurti and Dr. Alan W. Anderson, who is professor of religious studies at San Diego State University, where he teaches Indian and Chinese scriptures and the oracular tradition. Dr. Anderson, a published poet, received his degree from Columbia University and the Union Theological Seminary. He has been honored with a Distinguished Teaching Award from the California State Universities.
Mr. Krishnamurti, I was very taken with a recent statement of yours in which you said that it's the responsibility of each human being to bring about his own transformation, which is not dependent on knowledge or time. And if it's agreeable with you, I thought that it would be a splendid thing if we explored together the general area of transformation itself. And after we've done that, perhaps the other related areas would begin to fall into place, and we could bring about in conversation a relationship among them.
Don't you think, sir, considering what's happening in the world, in India, in Europe, and in America, the general degeneration in literature, in art, and especially in the deep cultural sense, in the sense religion.
Yes.
There is a traditional approach, a mere acceptance of authority, belief, which is not really the religious spirit. Seeing all this, the confusion, the great misery, the sense of infinite sorrow, any observant and most serious people would say that the society cannot possibly be changed except only when the individual, the human being, really transforms himself radically, that is, regenerates himself fundamentally. And the responsibility of that depends on the human being, not on the mass or on the priest or on a church or a temple or mosque or whatever, but on a human being who is aware of this enormous confusion, politically, religiously, economically, in every direction. There is such misery, such unhappiness. And when you see that, it is a very serious thing to ask oneself whether a human being like oneself or another, that whether he can really deeply undergo a radical transformation. And when that question is put to him, and when he sees his responsibility in relation to the whole, then perhaps we can discuss what relationship has knowledge and time in the transformation of man.
I quite follow. We'd need then to lay some groundwork in order to move into the question itself.
Yes, because most people are not concerned with the world at all. Most people are not concerned seriously with the events, with the chaos, with the mess in the world at present. They're only concerned very superficially. Problem of energy, problem of pollution, and so on, such superficial things. But they're really not deeply concerned with the human mind, the mind that is destroying the world.
Yes, I quite follow. What you've said places in a very cardinal way the radical responsibility on the individual as such, if I've understood you correctly.
Yes.
There are no 5-year plans that we can expect to help us out.
The word individual really is not the correct word, because individual, as you know, sir, means undivided, indivisible in himself. But human beings are totally fragmented. Therefore, they are not individuals. They may have a bank account, a name, a house, but they're not really individuals in the sense a total, complete, harmonious whole, unfragmented. That's really what it means to be an individual. Human being, it doesn't matter whether he's a politician or a businessman or just an ordinary person like me in the street. It's our business as a human being to realize the enormous suffering, misery, confusion there is in the world. And it's our responsibility to change all that. Not the politicians, not the businessmen, not the scientists. It's our responsibility.
When we say our responsibility, and we have two uses of the word individual now, there's the general use of it, meaning a quantitative measure.
Yes, yes.
And then this qualitative reference that we've simply needed, it seems to me, to discern as a possibility. I'm reminded again of the statement that you made that I quoted earlier, that it's the responsibility of each human person.
Human being, yes.
Right.
Whether he's in India or in England or in America or wherever he is.
So we can't slip out of this by saying, we have created this, therefore we must change it.
No.
We get back to, well, if the change is going to start at all, it's going to be with each.
Yes, sir.
With each.
With each human being.
Seems to be an indivisible relation between that and what we call the whole, which the individual doesn't sense.
So, as you know, I have been all over the world, except behind the Iron Curtain and Bamboo Curtain. I've been all over. And I've seen dozens and thousands of people. I've been doing this for 50 years and more. Human beings, wherever they live, are more or less the same. They have their problems of sorrow, problems of fear, problems of livelihood, problems of personal relationship, problems of survival, overpopulation, and whether this enormous problem of death, is a common problem to all of us. There is no Eastern problem and Western problem. The West has its particular civilization, and the East has its own. And human beings are caught in this trap.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I follow that.
And they don't seem to be able to get out of it. They're going on and on and on for millennia. A revolution is generally meant, if you talk to a communist, he wants to overthrow the government. If you talk to a bourgeois, he's frightened. Mm-hmm. If you talk to an intellectual, he has various criticisms about revolution. Now, revolution is either bloody,
yes,
or revolution in the psyche.
Yes.
Outward or inner.
Outward or inner.
The outward is the inner. The inner is the outward. There is not the difference between the outer and the inner. They are totally related to each other.
And this goes back to what you mentioned earlier, that there's no division, even though intellectually you make a distinction here,
that's right,
between the I and the we.
We, that's right.
Yes, of course.
So when we talk about change, we mean not the mere bloody revolution, physical revolution, but rather the revolution in the makeup of the mind.
Of each person.
Of human beings.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The way he thinks, the way he behaves, the way he conducts himself, the way he operates, he functions, the whole of that. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that psychological revolution, not evolution in the sense, gradualness.
No.
What place has knowledge in that?
What place has knowledge in something that occurs?
In the regeneration of man, which is the revolution, the inward revolution,
which
will affect the outer.
Yeah, which is not a gradual progress.
No, obviously.
No, right.
The gradual process is endless. So, when we are discussing change, we must be, I think, fairly clear that we mean the change in the psyche, in the very being of human beings. That is, in the very structure and nature of his thought.
A change at the root.
At the root.
At the root itself.
Root. And therefore, when there is that change, he will naturally bring about a change in society. It isn't society first, individual or individual first. It is the human change which will transform the society. They are not two separate things. Human beings have created this society. By their greed, by their anger, by their violence, by their brutality, by their pettiness, they have created this society.
Precisely.
And they think by changing the structure, you're going to change the human being. This has been the communist problem, this has been the eternal problem. That is, change the environment, then you change man. They have tried that in 10 different ways, and they haven't done it, succeeded in changing man. On the contrary, man conquers the environment, the structure. So, if we are clear that the outer is the inner is the outer, that there is not the division, the society and the individual, the collective and the separate human being, but human being is the whole. He is the society, he is the separate human individual, he is the factor which brings about this chaos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm following that very closely.
He is the world and the world is him.
Yes. Therefore, If he changes,
The whole thing
everything changes. If he doesn't change, nothing changes.
I think this is very important because we don't realize, I think, this basic factor that we are the world and the world is us. That the world isn't something separate from me and me separate from the world. You're born in a culture, Christian or Hindu or whatever culture you're born in, you are the result of that culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that culture has produced this world. The materialistic world of the West, if one can call it, which is spreading all over the world, destroying their own culture, their own traditions. Everything is being swept aside in the wake of the Western culture. And this culture has produced this human being. And the human being has created this culture.
Exactly.
I mean, he has created the painting, the marvelous cathedrals, the marvelous technological things going to the moon and so on, so on. So human beings have produced it. It's the human beings that have created the rotten society in which we live. It's the immoral society in which we live, which human beings have created it.
Oh yes, there's no way to deny that.
And therefore, the world is you, you are the world. There is no other thing. If we accept that, if we see that, not intellectually, but feel it in your heart, in your mind, in your blood that you are that, then the question, is it possible for a human being to transform himself inwardly and therefore outwardly? Is that human mind has divided the world in order to find its own security, which brings about its own insecurity. When one is aware of that, then one must inwardly as well as outwardly deny this division. As we and they, I and you, the Indian and the European and the communist, you cut at the very root of this division. Therefore, from that arises the question, can the human mind, which has been so conditioned for millennia, can that human mind, which has acquired so much knowledge in so many directions, can that human mind change, bring about a regeneration in itself and be free to reincarnate now?
Now.
Now.
Yes.
That is the...
That's the question.
Question.
Exactly. Reincarnate
now.
Now. It would appear from what you said that one could say that the